Happy Wednesday, everyone. Benji here at the Contractor Evolution studio. Today's conversation is with Luke Hansen, the founder and CEO of CompanyCam, our favorite photo storage and site management app purpose-built for contractors. CompanyCam's intuitive platform, it helps you snap, store, sync, and share photos of your jobs so that you, the owner, can better understand what's happening on site. You can empower your crews to make decisions and drive production without having to get in your truck and go out and see them. And it helps you cover your company's butt. It's one of those tools where once you use it, you'll kind of wonder how you ever got along without it. This is not a paid ad for CompanyCam. We just really like the tool and we prescribe it to a lot of our members. It's simple, it's cheap, it's a total no-brainer. Now, Luke, in particular, is one of my favorite CEOs in the contracting space, not only because his product rocks, but because he has a really unique perspective on life and business that I think shines through in this episode. And it's important to mention as well that before building a SaaS platform and pitching to venture capitalists, Luke was a roofer, working for his family business, White Castle Roofing. He understands the lived experience of the contractor because that was him not that long ago. So in today's episode, I ask him about how he decentralizes command within his organization so that not everything bottlenecks through him and how you can do that in your business too. We talk about how to combat decision fatigue, which is that exhaustion you feel from always being the one calling the shots. And my favorite bit was hearing his perspective on how to make that all-important jump from dreamer with ideas to a true visionary with traction. There's a difference. Listen, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll notice in a sec our setup looks different. That's because I shot this episode at their headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska while I was on a road trip last month. Don't worry, we'll be back in our regular studio next week. And lastly, for a free trial of CompanyCam, click the link in the show notes. If you're not using it already, give your coconut a shake. Go give it a try. You will absolutely love it. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did.
You're watching Contractor Evolution, where we unpack the systems, tactics, and skills you need to take your fast-growing contracting business to the next level.
You're here to learn what it takes to scale up, work less, and increase profitability. You've come to the right place.
Stay tuned to learn what separates the new breed of contractor from the old school, and welcome to your ultimate guide on the business of contracting.
Luke, thanks for having me here, man.
Glad to be here and glad to have you here.
I'm excited to do a Contractor Evolution in a studio that isn't our own. So we're here in Lincoln, Nebraska, which is great, and I'm excited to dive into this conversation with you. I wanted to start here. You guys have obviously evolved a lot, but there's an origin story I'm curious about, and I want you to speak to the observed problem that you really clearly saw at White Castle Roofing. I think your family's business. What do you see there that led to the creation of CompanyCam?
Yep. So I come from the roofing industry, been working in it my whole life almost, up until now. And back in 2014, I was running the marketing at our company, and then I was also managing like the siding and gutter division. And it was apparent to me that we needed to take photos. We needed to take photos to cover our butt. We needed, if you don't have any evidence of what it looked like before,
right,
you're open to problems later. We needed especially to like plan and coordinate, to be able to sit down and talk about what we were gonna do. And especially for me, because we knew roofing. Like I've done so much roofing, you see things, you know what you're looking for. You just have that institutional knowledge of having done it for 20 years.
Totally.
But we didn't have that with this siding and gutters. And we would make these like dumb mistakes, or, the work order would say, hey, it's one story. So we'd show up with like a 12-foot ladder and we're trying to wrap the fascia on a 40-foot gable. And so there's all these things where it was, okay, if we can sit here and look at the thing and talk about it, then we can make sure that we're covering our bases and we all know what's going on, and we're not going to be wondering if you're trying to do this thing kind of sideways and I wanted it done this way. Mm-hmm. And so people, This is back when people had those, like they'd pull the little micro SD card out of their phone.
Totally.
And slide it into the larger
I remember that.
SD thing.
You
and
get
then
adapters for
into
certain...
your computer, and like some people would print them off. I mean, so it's like this disaster. So I set up Dropbox and tried to get people to put their photos in Dropbox, and then we couldn't find them because people would forget and they wouldn't name the folder right. And it just was this whole thing. And I kept thinking, okay, we need photos for the reasons I mentioned and more. I can't find them. Like they're on someone's phone. They didn't get uploaded. It's just this mess. And I'm like, we need these organized by the location. You know, the location doesn't change. Like almost every contractor organizes things by like the job address. Like
totally.
It's kind of the core record. And I was like, okay, it's basically just like photos by location. Someone's probably done that. Like, let's look around. So I started Googling and looking everywhere. And I couldn't believe there just wasn't anything. You know, if you wanted a full-on system, you know, like a Job Nimbus style system or a Contractors Cloud or one of those, there was ways to get photos in there, but there was nothing that was kind of this just simple, solve this one problem. And after a while, I got to thinking, because I was listening to podcasts, you know, like this, they get you thinking, they get you believing that you can do things.
Think you're a genius.
Yeah, that you can
I
make
just
it
finished
happen.
3 hours. I like know everything about digital marketing now.
Yeah, exactly. You'll never run a bad Facebook ad again. And I was like, we should try this. So I run on the ask forgiveness versus permission framework for the most part. So I went and hired a dev shop, a couple local guys that write software for businesses, and told them this app idea. It's like, hey, basically wanted to use their GPS and organize the photos that way so that we can find them. That was the simple thing. We need to find them later, and that needs to be easy. And
right, I just want to pause there. Taking the photos a relatively easy part, remembering where you put it, what it's actually detailing, who it's meant to go to and be viewed by. That's the part where it gets like a total mess. I know folders on my computer just from screenshots are a complete and total disaster. So it's like that whole web gets extremely messy very fast.
So getting it in just under the right job. So I just go to this job, you know, the address is what it was. Like at the time we called them places. We didn't even call them projects. Now we call them projects. But before it's like a place. Photos connected to a place.
Right.
And then you always knew, because it was happening in this app, who took the photo, which is a key point. If like there's a concern over on this job, it's like, oh, Adam was over there. I'm going to talk to him about it. And then you knew when they were taken. So you could kind of see over time, okay, we did this at this point, someone went back and did this, and you've got kind of that visual story that you're building at this place. But yes, the finding of the photos, because you know, you're looking at image _ 6741930, and so I was talking about the kind of cover your butt aspect, the planning coordination, but I was also responsible for the marketing. And I was we were rebuilding the website, and I wanted to give people a ton of pictures of roofs that we've done so that they could see what different types of, you know, houses look like with different colors of shingles. Because you can get that sample board and go hold it up to your siding and try to kind of imagine. If you can just look at a bunch of pictures, you can be like, oh, I kind of want it to look like that. Or my house kind of looks like that. And I like the weathered wood better than the charcoal or whatever. And I was like staring at all these pictures, trying to figure out, oh, crap, was that house over on LaSalle? Is that Owens Corning or a Landmark? And it's like, once we started to get it organized, then we were on the way to solving our problem.
You kind of knew you had something at that point.
We realized pretty quickly when we started using it that we had something.
So this question might seem kind of obvious now that you're this far down the path, but it's worth unpacking. When you think of a contracting business, it's operationally complex. There's different job sites. There's vehicles driving around town. There's employed people. There's subcontractors. There's the customer. There's the business owner. There's a lot going on. I actually think there's a lot more going on in any like roofing company or construction company than that entrepreneur gives themselves credit for. They're very difficult. Why? What about a photo is so fundamental? Like, why is this so important for communication, for efficiency, for compliance, for quality control? Why is the photo so critical?
You're nailing it. Yeah. So, you know, there's these phrases like, oh, a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's these kind of dumb cliches, but when it comes to contracting, you are you're making something or building something. You're changing something in the world. You might be digging holes to put in a fence or ripping off shingles and putting on a new roof. And a photo is the sort of clear proof of what is the state of that right now, right? And it doesn't have to be explained. Sometimes you need that extra context, but just being able to see what the state of something is and know this is what the state of it was when we were out there 2 weeks ago. This is what the state of it is today. And that's, with CompanyCam, that kind of real-time nature of that, seeing the state of that in real time is really helpful. And it for us, and that was surprising, was because I was working on that organization problem, that let's find it so that we have it. And once we realized that, this kind of real-time seeing everything, seeing all of these pictures actually saves us a ton of text communication, phone calls, driving around. And it's like this large amount of almost like passive information coming your way that you can pick things out of. And for me, a lot of it was marketing. Like I would see a funny picture that someone took or something that looked really nice, and I could quickly drop it on, at the time, Facebook is where everyone was. Or, one day, Abel, bless his heart, because he's really smart and really good, but he's screwing up. He was putting the Tyvek behind the step flashing, which is that's a problem because water runs downhill, So it's one thing, we would have had a leak in 18 months, but when you see it, you don't need, if I'm on the phone with Abel and I'm like, oh, hey, what am I going to ask him? Are you putting the Tyvek behind the step flashing? I just don't know to do that, but seeing it all is just you get so much more information that way than trying to affirmatively communicate everything via phone or text.
Well, and this is a really important piece for our listeners who are at the stage in their business where they're no longer on the site most of the day. They're not there quarterbacking every decision. They're not making sure the process gets executed perfectly. They're meeting other clients. They're in their office. They're doing strategic planning. They're building out a marketing campaign. They're truly entering that stage of entrepreneurship where they have some distance. They have some insulation between them and the actual goings on of the business, if that makes sense. And so I think when you say a picture says 1,000 words, I remember phone calls with my job site manager where we'd spend 20 minutes trying to describing where why the ladder can't go here and why he can't access a certain piece of siding. And I'd be like, what about this? What about that? Wait, can you explain that again? I mean, and I feel like an idiot now in hindsight, now that these, this is 10 years ago, but if he just sent me a photo and drawn a little squiggle line on it and add some text, that's an instantaneous decision and a very quick solution rather than this huge bogged down, very slow verbal communication.
Absolutely. It's a shared, it creates that shared understanding of what's going on, of what the state of things are, and that allows for that effective communication.
Does this make empowering staff easier? And if so, how? How does this make a project manager, a site supervisor, a lead carpenter, the head honcho of a roofing crew, whomever, how does it make them own their role better and really drive results, drive performance? How does it put them in the cockpit of that site?
Yeah. So, our company mission is to build trust through truth and transparency. And we think of what's being captured in CompanyCam, these photos, videos, that's the truth on the ground. That is, it's time stamped, it's GPS stamped. So you've got that foundation of truth of seeing exactly what is, which allows you to communicate more effectively, to do accountability. And so then that transparently sharing it through your organization. Because when you're using CompanyCam, you're taking pictures, and anyone that you give access to in your company can see any of the pictures getting taken, and there's permissions that you can set, but just in general, it's just kind of open. You're seeing what's going on. And so we would have situations pop up where we'd see they'd be tearing off a roof, they'd start to take pictures, and it's clearly there's rotten decking. And before they called or even said we need to do something, I'd be talking with Zach, our ops person, and he'd be like, yep, I've already got Jose running over there with 12 sheets of OSB. And that just empowering everyone with better information is immediately a way that that they can just take control and act faster. But
I was going to say so that the entrepreneur doesn't have to.
Absolutely.
Like that's the key point here. Because one thing I've become acutely aware of with all the members that we work with and our listeners is this idea of like decision fatigue. Contractors are like overwhelmed by how much of the business runs through them. A fork in the road. Do we go right or do we go left? This person didn't show up. What do we do? The customer wants to change colors. What do we do? Like, that's a few examples. I could come up with 100 more. There's so many details and choices. There's so much like analysis and weighing pros and cons that an entrepreneur has to do in the running of their business. And I wonder if you just have thoughts on that whole idea. I'm sure like our listeners get that, but from your perspective, how does being the one calling all the shots impede growth and slow you down from getting to where you want to go as an entrepreneur?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, anytime, like that's what you would call a central point of failure, right? If you're trying to optimize a system, if everything has to go through one bottleneck, be that me as the CEO here, or could even be sometimes a project manager, you're running a contracting business, like the more things that have to go through you slow everyone down. So it's way easier said than done, but we try to push decisions down the org as low as possible. The idea that it is usually the case that the person closest to the problem is in the best position to solve that problem.
Jocko Willink calls that decentralized command.
Yeah.
You're pushing decision-making away from the top and towards the bottom.
Yes. And to do that, you do have to have a shared understanding of what you're trying to do, like a shared vision of this is what we're trying to accomplish. You also need a shared values that people can understand, like principles or values that help them. For example, if you say quality is our North Star or something like that, well, then that tells and you believe it. You have to actually believe it, right? You can say a lot of things, but if you don't yourself act on them, then you're going to put people in a little bit of a pinch. But if quality is your North Star and you're dealing with a customer and they're like, well, that doesn't look good, there's a bump, they've got a problem and the problem is quality. Well, the person who's closest to that problem shouldn't need to come back to you and say, hey, should we fix this thing or should we tell them just to leave it? Like, they should know because of your principles and your priorities,
the
what
guardrails.
To do. Yeah, and a lot of that, like I think of thinking. I do a lot of my thinking out loud, of just talking to people. Like
we know
thinking
that.
and talking, exactly. And the bad part about that is it gets a little boring and tedious. The good part, though, is that you're kind of externalizing how you think about things and helping other people understand that, because it's. Like even our mission, build trust through truth and transparency. We backed into that by kind of like discovering what we were trying to do. I couldn't have told you day one that was kind of the core element of CompanyCam, what we were trying to accomplish. We realized that over time as we were making decisions and just running our business, that like, this trust is the core idea and these photos are the truth. And that like we discovered that. And so that engaging, rather than giving someone a solution immediately, sometimes you have to do that.
Right.
But if you can engage them in questions, in not helping them think through it in a patronizing way, but just talking it out with someone and asking them questions so that you're building up that ability for them to understand both how you think and how you see problems, so that in the future, they don't have to even ask you, they can just do it. And it's like, it strikes me as like an analog of parenting. I can tie my kid's shoes every time his shoes come untied, but then he's not going to be able to tie his own shoes. And you add a little time. That's always the frustration, is time. And that's what you sort of lack on any given day. You get a ton of things going on and it's like, okay, I can just decide this.
I can fix this problem for this person right now.
And it just it saves time. But yeah, that's a recipe for staying small and not scaling.
So I want to go back to something that you said earlier, because I think it's really important, which is in order to push decision-making down the organization, you need to have vision and you need to have values. And I feel like both of those words have become so buzzy and they're peppered into every single PowerPoint slide you're ever going to see. Every business guru on Instagram is going to talk about it until you're red in the face. almost no one actually explains the actual practical why. It's just like something that you do, and we all like values and integrity and quality, and we put them on the wall. And then you gotta have vision, man. You gotta have vision, bro. It's like, why? And what does that even mean? So when we talk about pushing decision making down the organization, why are those two things so fundamentally important? And how do they make doing that easier for the people, for the boots on the ground actually doing the work?
Oh yeah. Well, I remember when I started this company, CompanyCam, I thought that we were building an app, right? Like that's what I was trying to do. We need to build this app. We need to make this app better. We're building an app. And it took me a long time to realize, no, we're building a company, and this company makes an app,
right?
But it's the people are the most important piece of that, and the product is very important, that next layer up. And then, there's all sorts of things, sales, marketing, last would probably be like video and audio people. It's just the subtle troll on the room. No, but realizing that the only way that my job is basically to try to help keep everyone pointed in one direction. Like, hey, this is the thing we're trying to do. It's not that I invent all of the ideas. There are a whole bunch of it you talk to people, you almost discover, but it's that unifying, like, hey, we're moving this direction. This is where we're trying to go. But at every level, sort of obsoleting yourself, taking yourself out of it, and finding someone better than you, or that at least can be better than you, that is the name of the game in entrepreneurship. Like being a solopreneur, doing everything yourself. I mean, look, if you love the work, I don't want to be down on anyone for just doing something they love doing. But if you're trying to grow, roping other people in and having them work is the secret. You're unlocking all of this. I can't set up these cameras, record this audio. I see them out there editing video. We've got a guy over here doing like really good design and drawing stuff. I can't do any of that. And if I could do it poorly, actually, right? And if I try to keep doing all of that, then we are going to be stuck. Like we have this ceiling. And the only way is to keep finding. I've told a bunch of our executives here, like the way that you don't get hired above is you hire someone that you would work for to work for you. And if you hire someone that you would work for, except they're working for you, then the sky's the absolute limit. And that's what I feel like I've hired a bunch of people that I would work for that work for me, and they're doing better than I would do it. And that just allows us to keep going.
What are CompanyCam's core values, and just briefly explain what they mean to you guys and how you've integrated them into the business?
So our core values are show up, grow up, and do good. We got a little alliteration going on. So show up.
You're a poet.
Yeah, didn't know it. No. So show up. That's like the basic thing, right? You just have to show up even when you don't want to, when you're tired, when your flight lands at 3 a.m., like that's half of the battle, is getting there and just committing to, I'm going to at least try.
Don't they say that about parenting too? 90% of it is just showing up.
That sounds good.
I think it's a quote from Modern Family. Seriously, but it's a good line.
I love the show. Yeah, no, it is. But so showing up. So that's a big value here. It's like just show up. There's stories of one time they messed up shipping our trade show booth, and one of Lauren, who's now our VP of like people operations, but she was in the marketing team at that point. She drove 12 hours to Dallas through the middle of the night to just show up because that's what needed to happen.
Right. Someone
just had to do it. And so we value that. The grow up part, I think of myself as constantly needing to grow up. I was thinking about that when I was thinking of this podcast today and driving in. I was thinking on this idea of becoming more mature, more reliable, and just committing to this idea that you are capable of more and that you can do better than you're doing now. It's kind of that growth mindset, but that idea of growing up, it's like a invocation almost to myself. Like, hey, dude, you got to grow up a little bit, or say it to other people around here. And so that's one of our values. It's just this constant growing up and that attitude that we're all capable of more than we are right now. And then the do good piece is, it sounds a little cheesy, but it's like treat people well, do the right thing. I mean, I watched to the point of running a contracting business. I watched my dad manage his roofing company over my whole life. And he treats people well. He treats them, he runs high integrity.
Right.
He treats people respectfully. And I saw that, work out over time. I just saw, and I've seen other people trying to make that extra like incremental buck on the storm and shady. And like, I've seen that just fail over time. It might work out this year and you buy a boat or whatever, but that's not the 20-year strategy.
Right.
And that we just have a new hiring class in here today. We hired like 7 people. And they were saying, man, it's just like the atmosphere. They're just really happy to be here.
Yeah.
And that commitment to treating people well, the fact that they matter more than the profit of any given job or something like that, that works over time. And you gave a talk yesterday about competitive labor market, hiring people. I mean, it is hard. Talented people have a ton of options. And so, yes, those are our values. Sorry, I kind of started selling them pretty hard there. But that show up, grow up, do good, that's what we believe in.
I love it. Okay. So, Luke, just to like sort of summarize a couple things here we're talking about offline for the listeners, and then I'm going to get to the question. CompanyCam has been around for how long? How many years?
Let's say 7.
Okay. 7 years. We've got 15,000 different businesses using it. 162 employees. You're storing 500 million photos right now. You have a body of work, right? I'm not saying the journey's over and you've made it and whatever. Like, I'm not trying to like, blow smoke up your ass here, but you do have a business. We'll do that after. You've got a business here. You've got something substantial. You've done something, okay? And so here's my question, because I know a lot of people that we work with, a lot of entrepreneurs. They've got a lot of ideas. They're highly creative. They shoot for the stars. They talk about things that they aspire towards. But there's a very clear difference between a visionary, as we've come to understand what that word means, and just a straight up dreamer. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are dreamers trying to become a visionary. And I think a slim percentage of them actually do. And sadly, a larger percentage just remain in dreamer status forever. They got a ton of business ideas and they want to tell you about them, but none of them ever become what they deserve to become. So the question for you, because you probably were a dreamer one day. You're a highly creative.
Oh, I'm still a dreamer. Yeah.
But you've done the work. This is my point. You're a highly creative ideas guy that talks a lot and is like very charismatic. And you strike me as one of those people. And yet here we are 7 years later with something pretty substantial that we can reach out and touch. So the question is, what must highly creative entrepreneurs do, be aware of, or change to become a visionary with traction rather than just a dreamer with lots of ideas?
That is a great question. And I'm really glad that you asked it to me before because I had to think really hard about that. And so I've got 3 things here, and I'm actually going to start with a third, work my way backwards. The number 3 is you cannot let your fear of failure or your fear of looking stupid or being embarrassed prevent you from action. And I think there's a lot of ideas that people have. They might, could work out, they maybe not, but they don't act on them because they are afraid of failing. And sometimes I don't even know how really articulated that is in people's heads, but it is. Like if you try something, when I tried this app, right, it could have just not worked. And it would have looked stupid. Oh, that guy who just dad owns a roofing company thought he
tried to build an app,
start a tech company, and like, nice try, dumbass. Like so, and that very likely could have happened. And sometimes it's almost luck in between. I don't want to say that it's all of what it is, but you just have to be okay with the fact that you might fail and that you might look stupid. You might even fail while looking stupid.
Where do you think the fear of looking stupid comes from? Because I think it's an affliction of the vast majority of the human species. Like it's a part of the human experience, that fear of looking stupid. But the people who get over it seem to do a lot better.
I remember trying to learn how to play the drums. I decided like when I was 21 or something that I wanted to play the drums. And I looked really stupid for a long time. I was bad. It was embarrassing to watch. And in fact, I never got that good. But the willingness to persevere there's so much value on the other side of that. But I don't know. We all are trying to, we care a lot about status. We want to meet a husband, wife, partner, and a lot of, I don't know, you even see these birds dancing around and we're trying to do this thing that show other people that hey, we're competent.
I'm enough.
You're a person that,
right.
I'm a person that you should want to be with. And we want to project that out to the world. And it's one thing to kind of be projecting that. But if you try something risky, then all of that is sort of up in the air, and it just might fall apart on you. And I think that is why. I don't know the fundamental reason of why we care about that really deeply, but I know that it is super powerful. And I think I'm on the pretty high end of people who are ready to look stupid and willing to try something. And I still care about it a lot. I really don't want to look dumb and embarrass myself.
But you're willing to take the risk for something greater.
Yes, and I think it's like a muscle. But it's like anything.
No, it is.
You can practice. I remember Tim Ferriss saying he would ask for a discount at the coffee shop. Every time he would go order coffee, it was like a challenge to just ask for the 10% good guy discount or something. And it's just that practicing doing things that make you uncomfortable, because that is the path forward. And so that when people tell me their ideas, because now that this is basically working. I get pitched a lot of things, and a lot of people hit me up, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. And sometimes they do it, and I'm cheering them on. But a lot of times there's an innumerable amount of excuses. If you want to start inventing them that are going to prevent you from action, from taking all the incremental steps forward, you will think of a literal million excuses.
They're there. They're not hard to come up with.
No, they're not. But so you just have to move, and you can't be afraid of that.
It's been my experience that to get good at anything, you have to be quite bad at it for a while. And that period of time might be longer than you want, but it's definitely not going to be longer than the period of time that you're good at that same thing once you get through that part. But there's a shooting yourself in the foot process that happens to a lot of business owners, artists, creatives, whomever. That comes from this fear of looking stupid.
It's safety. It's always safer to not do something, because you're okay right now, and that's safe.
So that's the first. What's the second?
So the second one I put here is delegate and elevate. I'm stealing some nice phrases.
More
from
rhymes.
People. Yeah. So delegate and elevate. I'm an instigator. You were talking about starting this company. I'm ideas, starting things, and if I have to output the finished document, man, that takes me forever. If I ever get it done, I've got a million problems with it. I'm procrastinating. So finding people that aren't the same as you, that have different strengths than you, and really letting them run with things and truly handing it off. That's what's hard. Because I have a lot of opinions about this app. There was a long time where I had too many opinions about the marketing of this company, and I was deep into the back end of the Facebook ads, and just systematically letting that stuff go and handing it over to someone else. And you are looking for people that are ready to take responsibility. That's a key thing that, we're looking for here every day, or trying to keep your eyes on, is who wants more responsibility and is ready for the accountability?
Step up to the plate.
You've got to hand it over to them. And the first time it might not work. It might not work 3 times in a row. But again, if it all comes to me, I'm going to have a whole bunch of things that are 80% done, kind of almost there, and I have to let other people run with those things, get them pushed, kind of helping them start. I think that's what a visionary is really good for. You're charting the path, you're looking into the future, and you're helping other people start, and then relying on them to finish. And so it really is a game of other people.
Do you have any thoughts on this this delegate and elevate piece around knowing when someone's ready? because I this question comes up like in webinar chat rooms. It comes up and we get asked DMs through social media. It comes up at our conferences. They're like, how do I know when my project manager is ready to take the next step? Or how do I know when like this person is ready to move from this position to this position? Is it an intuitive feel? Can you quantify it? Is it just experience?
I mean, a lot of it is people's work will show for itself. Like you see people just taking things and taking ownership of them. It is almost like you know it when you see it. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say that I'm perfect at this any given way. I mean, because I've failed on both sides of this, of waiting way too long to give someone responsibility that could handle a lot more.
A lot sooner.
Yeah, and vice versa. Giving someone way too much responsibility that they just weren't. Because sometimes it's the shape of a thing. If it's just more responsibility down the exact same thing they're doing, that's a little cleaner versus like, oh, I'm moving from doing the work to managing people.
Right.
That's sort of a shift in like almost like the whole job. And that's when it's a lot harder when you're taking more of a gamble versus, hey, if you did great, it's like hiring a crew,
Right.
You did a great job today, like, oh, I'll give you 2 jobs tomorrow.
Right.
Like that's just cleaner.
That's more task oriented rather than like a true shift in the role.
I wish I had something better to give you there, but quite honestly, I don't.
I heard a good soundbite on this at our expert panel at Winter Summit a couple months ago, because this question came up, and someone said, like, when someone can do something 80% as well as you can, it's time to give it over to them, because the 80% is good enough, right? Is good enough.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to get to 100% much faster with the stuff on their plate now. They might suffer over the short term. They might make a mistake that costs you. They might come back to you 2 weeks later saying, I feel overwhelmed, or I'm in over my head. And that's your job as a good leader to then support them in whatever way they need. But the timing of it, I think matters. And I think that 80% rule kind of makes sense to me. And I also think there's a tendency, like more often than not, people are keeping individuals in their business from doing things longer. Like the ratio of people who like don't let people excel is higher than the ratio of people who give them too much too early. Like there's a tendency to hold on.
Oh, holding on is definitely the
more
problem.
normal
More
thing.
People suffer from holding too tightly than to letting too much go.
Right.
I mean, and that's, I don't know. It's like this business. I care about this business a lot, and I've got a way that I think certain things should be done or what we should build, and that letting go piece. It's funny to even be talking about it because it feels like something that I have been specifically bad at, but we're always kind of bad at it until you just commit to doing it. And I like the 80% rule. I have a hard time with those quantifications because, like, what does it mean for someone to be 80? Half the time now, anyone I hire is like 150% better than me, and whatever thing they're doing, it's immediately like, yeah, that's what you need to be doing. But for we brought on a COO. His name's Hank. He's I think he's the oldest person at this company. But I talked to him for about 10 minutes over lunch one day, and I was just like, this guy, we need this type of wisdom and this type of experience, and we just don't have it. Like, and we're smart and we're hustling,
right?
And we're not like gonna crash into the mountain, but just a lot of that is just seeing what you don't have, and you kind of need to, like, I don't know, run into it and spot it, and you're like, oh yeah, that, and all. He's come in here and is making a big difference just all over the place of just kind of helping us professionalize and do things better that we just didn't even know about.
Totally. Okay, so that's 2 of 3. What's the third thing that creative entrepreneurs need to do to enter visionary status and not just stay a dreamer?
So I've got here, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. It's a phrase that I've said enough around here that they memorialized it on like a poster when I was out of town one time. But when you have a vision of what you want, that usually means you've got a pretty strong opinion about it. And you imagine what it could be, you care about how it fits together, and even if you don't let your fear get in front of you and you delegate and elevate other people, you can still hold on to kind of like, oh, it needs to be this perfect, great thing,
Right.
rather than it needs
'Cause it's
to
your
get
baby.
done and shipped. You know, they say like done is better than perfect. There's all these phrases that go around this that are a version of, yes, you know that it could be better. And that's what's hard. Like, it's hard to see something and know this could be better, but we have to run with it. I'm gonna throw everyone in this room under the bus. I saw a video that we made one time and I was like, I think this video could be better. But I care a lot more about the fact that these guys are hustling, kicking out these videos and just really running at it than I do to try to jump in and say, we should do this over here and change this up and undo a bunch of things. And you know what happened? They all got better. Like all the videos, everyone got better. And just saying, hey, I'm not gonna stand in front of this. I'm not gonna say it's not perfect, so we're not doing it. And I think it does. That kind of ties back to that like fear of looking stupid,
totally
or fear
does.
of it not working, because yeah. And so I say it to these designers all the time. I'm like, the 10-minute version of your design right here is like 90% as good as the 8-hour version of you sweating it out and worrying about it. Or you think of sending emails to potential customers or these type of things. You want to care about it and you want to do well, but just doing something is so much better than not shipping anything. And that is just universal across the board.
I think that completing things, even if it's only to a state of 80 or 90%, is a muscle as well. So you do it once, and then the next time you get it completed 93%, and then the next time it's 95. But the point is you've built a habit around getting the thing that needs to go off your desk. It's like there's so many people that sit and like whiteboard shit out for years and think about it in their mind for way too long. And it's like, just get the thing done and then move on to the next thing, because that in and of itself is a bit of a momentum builder. And I think that's a really great point for dreamers who are just like, man, I've been thinking of doing this forever. And it's like, what, like, why haven't you started?
Yes. Yeah. And breaking things into pieces and shipping them out. Like you said, I think what you said with that 80% good enough, but done, it's the same. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just, yes, you just have to get it out there. And you learn from that. That's like a whole bunch of learning is from trying things.
Right.
And so we try to break the work here down to like a bunch of different teams. And one of our focuses this year is on learning, the idea of experimenting, failing, learning, and then sharing what you learned. So ideally, other people don't either make the same mistake or they get an opportunity to win because they learned something from you. So like that iterative learning, man.
I love it. So drop the fear of looking stupid, delegate and elevate. And how did you phrase the last one?
I said, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Some amazing wisdom from one of our favorite entrepreneurs, Luke Hansen. Luke, let's bring this home. Where can people find a little bit more about CompanyCam?
So CompanyCam.com, at CompanyCam on different social medias. Shout out to the TikTok team. Most of the TikTok team is in the room here making great TikToks, CompanyCam TikToks. But yeah, come find us online. We are trying to work hard and have fun. And I think you'll see from our stuff that we're doing online that we are having a good time.
We at Breakthrough Academy and Contractor Evolution are huge fans of CompanyCam. We recommend all of our users or all of our members get on it. So there's an unbiased take.
Force at gunpoint is what we're looking for.
It's a really good product, super intuitive, very easy to use, and it solves a lot of problems that you probably don't even know you have right now. Luke, thanks for doing this with me, man.
Great to be here, man. Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of Contractor Evolution. If you've already subscribed to our channel, consider